All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast weekly real estate tip. And today I'm here to talk to you about the housing market crash that we are stepping deeper and deeper into, and the four essential things as realtors, as real estate professionals that you must do during these times to pivot, shift, and adapt. Because look, I want to be very clear on this because I don't want to operate from a place of fear. There is absolutely no reason that your business should not continue to grow and scale, regardless of what's going on in the marketplace. And look, if you're planning on being in this game for a long time, which I know that you are going to experience a lot of different markets. You're going to experience booms, busts. You're going to experience sellers markets, buyers markets, neutral markets. You need to learn how to pivot, shift, and adapt regardless of what's going on in the marketplace. Because here's the beauty of this is real estate is always trading hands. People are always buying, always selling. Now, who's buying, who's selling, that might pivot and change. But the fact of the matter is real estate is always transacting, always trading hands. It's funny. A lot of people that are reaching out to me right now, and I get it. It's probably one of the hardest real estate markets that or cycles that we've ever seen, what we're experiencing right now. I mean, I have friends that have been in this industry for 50 plus years. They're like, Josh, we never experienced anything like what we are seeing right now today. It's a funky time. It's a unique time. It's a challenging time. I get it. But I'll jump on a call for somebody that needs help. And they're like, oh, dude, Josh, you just don't understand. Nothing's selling in my market. And I'm like, okay, like pull up your MLS and just show me. I want proof that there's zero homes selling in your market. That's just not the case. Now, I get it. There's a lot of markets down 40%, 50% from kind of the previous 10-year norms, and my market's included in that. Our market's down substantially, about 40% lesser transaction volumes taking place. But instead, okay, 10,000 homes selling, we still got 6,000 homes selling every single month. So that's still 12,000 transaction sides every single month. And I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying if you go into the, Phoenix MLS or Armless and like, oh, Josh, those aren't the exact numbers. I'm just using that as an example, for that. But what I mean here is real estate's always trading hands no matter what. So I never want you to be able to allow yourself to play victim and hide behind the market. Because if I'm like, oh, my business is down because of what's going on with the market, well, then I'm saying, okay, I don't have power. I'm giving up my power to the market. I'm saying that I cannot turn things around until the market shifts and changes, which is utter BS. It's just absolute BS. It's a BS story. I know it's easy to get into that mindset. I've allowed myself to slip into that mindset. I've had to pull myself out of that very quickly. But I want you to understand that your business should always continue to grow and scale regardless of the marketplace. But it all starts with awareness. You got to have awareness of, okay, where are we at? What's going on, right? You got to make sure that you're removing your kind of biases that we have, because we have these things called cognitive biases, right? Where you want a certain outcome. So you start allowing yourself to look at data and things based on that outcome versus looking at the whole big picture from an objective standpoint. Because for me, like, look, dude, I don't care what happens with the market. When I say I don't care, it doesn't mean that I don't like seeing people get hurt. I don't like seeing people lose their homes. I don't like seeing people get crushed with real estate, but I understand it is way out of my control. So to me, it's okay. My real estate goals are my real estate goals. I want to serve and support as many families as I possibly can, make my real estate goals a reality. What happens with the market is so far out of my control that why would I even care about what's going to take place? Why am I going to have a dog in the fight if the market's going to boom, if it's going to bust, if it's going to crash, anything in between? No, I'm just going to pay attention objectively, remove my own personal biases, pay attention to what's going on so I have accurate data so then I can pivot, shift, and adapt accordingly. So I'm going to go through some of the reasons as to why I have a strong opinion on why we're going to crash, or at least most markets are going to crash. And some markets, like I got zip codes in my market that are already in crash territory, right? Because a crash is just a correction beyond 20%. So many people think of a crash as like the great financial crisis where home values, you have this $575,000 house that drops down to 185. That is not, that's a severe crash. Right? Doesn't mean that that's what a crash is. Crash is just a correction beyond it 20%. And again, there's pockets throughout the US that are already in a crash, right? And a lot of markets that will get to a crash. Now, I first want to lead off with this before I get into the reasons as to why I'm pretty certain that this is going to crash. And when I say certain, look, I'll be the first to admit I do not have a crystal ball. This is just what I'm paying attention to, how I'm prepping and planning in my own real estate business, and what I'm walking through my coaching clients to go out there and prep and prepare for as well, because success favors he or she that is most prepared. But before I do that, I just want you guys to understand and know that, look, real estate's very hyper local. Now, I'm in a market that's probably going to get hit very hard, Phoenix, Arizona. And there's a direct correlation of how quickly a market rises up with appreciation, like in boom, in the kind of rise, on how quickly it falls, right? So you got that correlation. So the quicker the market appreciated, okay, probably the more that it's going to decline, during this next correction cycle. Then from there, there's also a direct correlation with the amount of investor purchases in a given area, because investors, especially these big hedge funds, these big private equity firms, as soon as they start losing money, they'll just dump these properties. It's different than, a homeowner that has an emotional attachment to the home, has, also it's not just the emotional attachment to the home, it's also ego, it's these other things. Like we don't want to just walk away from a home where it's, for a private equity firm, like to them, it's just business. It's just, dude, this is just a line item on a balance sheet. If we got to cut our losses, we just cut our losses, go. They don't, it's just a straight up business decision. Just, they got to make some calculations on their balance sheet, right? So it becomes different, right? So, okay, markets like mine in Phoenix, Arizona, or Phoenix Metro, Arizona, you got markets like, okay, let's just say Vegas, Nevada, you got, mini markets in Texas, Florida. Well, we saw this rapid rise plus a rapid amount of investor purchases in those markets. So yeah, there's going to be some markets like, Arizona, Texas, Florida, your Atlanta, Georgia's, your Vegas, they're probably going to be hit harder than, certain markets maybe in Alabama. But a correction is inevitable. When you look at what we are against right now and what we're seeing right now, like it needs to correct. It needs to happen. Even though we're going to all go through pain with this, it needs to happen, dude, because it's just getting to the point where it's so damn unaffordable. It's going to get to the point where only the super, super rich, super, super wealthy can go out there and afford to buy. And that equation just doesn't work, right? So, okay, I want to get into the reasons as to why I believe this is going to crash, but then most importantly, the four essential things to go out there and do as a real estate agent to make sure that you aren't just surviving this, but you're thriving with this. But real quick, before I do that, if you are a real estate agent, if you are a real estate team leader, or you are a real estate independent brokerage owner, and you are interested in learning more about partnering with me at EXP, where you can get 100% full free access to all my coaching, all my training, all my mentorship, as well as my business partner, Mike Sherrard, who's the best in the world at social media, YouTube, and AI. If you want to learn more about how you can get all of our training, all of our coaching, all of our mentorship for you, for all of your agents, anybody inside your organization, and I'm not talking about teaming up or we're business partners or we are, working together on a team. No, I'm talking how we can be a support system behind the scenes. We can get all of everything that we offer 100% for free and help you grow and scale your real estate business. I truly believe that we can do much more together than we can apart. That's something that you want to learn more about. I highly encourage you to schedule a quick 30-minute Zoom call with me personally. It's going to be you and I. And on that call, everything I do is zero pressure. So I'm not going to push you, not going to try to recruit you, not going to pressure you. It's just, hey, here's everything that we have. Here's everything that we offer. Here's how we work. Here's how we operate. Here's how I think we can support you. Answer any questions that you have at the end of that call. If you think that we're a great fit for you, awesome. If not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. You have my word on that. Now, anywhere you're watching or listening to this, below in the show notes or the description, the top link will be a link where you can pick any date, time that works best for you to schedule that 100% confidential, 100% zero pressure Zoom call with me personally, where we can see if this might be a better opportunity for you. And to me, you have nothing to lose, everything to gain. Look, it might be a life-changing opportunity. And if you feel that it's not, okay, cool, stay where you are. Like I said, I'm not going to try to recruit you. But to me, it's well worth in your best interest just to jump on a quick call and see what we have to say. Okay, and let me first lead off into the reasons. You've been listening to this podcast, guys. I've been talking about this for years now. Really, I kind of started seeing the dams, the dam cracking in 2019, 2018. But there's just so much manipulation. There's just so much going on in the market. There's so many bailouts. There's so many different ways to manipulate, to kick the can further down the road. Now, I don't know if there's too many ways left at this point to kick the can down the road. So even if they came in and started buying insane amounts of mortgage-backed securities again, like they did, during the lockdowns, during the pandemic, that brought interest rates under 3%, even if they did that, yeah, it might kick the can down the road a little bit, but like we're kind of running out of road at this point. So if you look, okay, where are we at and why do I have these beliefs? Okay, number one, let's talk about the consumer, because the consumer is the end game product. People are like, oh, well, you got all these, investors, private equity firms, they'll just buy all the real estate. Okay, well, somebody's got to still be able to rent these out. The numbers still need to make sense for them to rent them out. Rents are going up or have astronomically went up. Last stat that I heard, I could be wrong on this. I didn't plan on bringing up this stat for this podcast, but last I heard, going off memory here, is something like 30% of tenants are behind on rents now throughout the country. So even rents are becoming so unaffordable. Now, today I'm going to talk about purchases. But people have to have a rooftop. They have to live somewhere, and they got to be able to afford that real estate. So it's really important to pay attention to what's going on with the consumer themselves. So if you look at the consumer, now I'm not here to say, and I'll be the first to admit, I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know exactly when this is going to take place. I know in certain markets, like my market, like I said, we're already in the middle of it taking place, right? Like it's already in the beginning phases of this, or not beginning phases, but already in the phases where it's beginning, where people are seeing it. Right? Because typically these things happen a year or two before people start to see it, before they start to realize it, before they know what the mess that we are in. But if you look at, the overall consumer today, the consumer is in a worse off position than they've ever been. Like right now, today, it is the most unaffordable time to be alive as a U.S. citizen in the history of the United States. Now, pretty much all the other countries out there, and most countries, so if I look at, Canada, or most other countries, they're following suit in this, right? Where it is just the most unaffordable time to be alive, really, as a citizen in most countries. But I'm going to speak specific to the U.S. here. Hands down, the most unaffordable time to be alive as a U.S. citizen, since the inception of the U.S., 1776, it's never been more unaffordable to just operate life. So you can remove real estate from it. Like every time you go out to eat, every time you go do anything, it has gotten so insanely unaffordable to just operate life. So when I get people that will ask me, well, Josh, do you think it's going to be as bad as '08? I'm like, I have no idea. Again, like I was saying earlier, I didn't finish my statement earlier, but I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea. Right? Like I honestly don't. I don't think anybody does, right? But what I can say with full certainty is the consumer today and is a way worse off position than they were leading into 2008, than they were leading the dot-com bubble, and even leading into the Great Depression. The consumer is in the worst off position that we've ever seen the consumer, here inside the United States. Like if you look at 2008 as an example, if you see me looking down, I'm just glancing at some of my notes. Okay, the consumer had $13.8 trillion of total debt in the United States. The consumer had. Today, they have $17.7 trillion in debt. Right? So, okay, mortgage debt is up 27%. You could be like, oh, prices went up, mortgage rates went up. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Yep, I get that. But it's still up 27% more. Then you got credit card debt up 44% more than it was. Again, this is kind of peak leading into 2008. Right? The consumer status. So credit cards up 44%, auto loans up 100%, student loans up 167%. And it's not just the consumer. What really freaks me out about this time, and I say what freaks me out, doesn't keep me up at night, like it's going to be what it's going to be, but things I'm really paying attention to, while I'm not confident that we can, when I was saying earlier of continue to kick the can down the road, is in all fronts, right? When you look at consumer debt, you look at corporate debt, you look at government debt, like we've never seen anything like this. And not just nationally, right? Like on a global scale with all countries, like this is a freaking absolute mess. I don't know the way out of this, right? I don't know. And then people are like, oh, they'll just keep printing their way out of this. Okay. Right? But what people don't realize is every time the government prints money, which a new bill just passed with Trump's bill, it's like, doesn't matter what side of the aisle is, they just want to print more money, print more money, print more money, print more money, right? Well, every time they do that, that takes money out of the future, pulls it into the now. So that's inflationary. Right. So when you're adding $1 trillion to the deficit every 100 days, that is extremely inflationary. That's just going to continue to put more and more pressure on the consumer until the consumer eventually breaks, and then shit's going to get ugly. And I don't know all the different ways it's going to get ugly, but it's going to be uglier, much more ugly than just the housing market. All right. So then from there, if you go to this is a graph I pay attention to every single month, but if you can just Google this, Federal Reserve St. Louis consumer debt to savings chart. So the Federal Reserve St. Louis is the branch of the Federal Reserve that is in charge of tracking consumer debt. Go look at that graph. It will blow your damn mind. At no point since this has been tracked by the Federal Reserve, at no point in history has the gap from the consumer between debt and savings been this wide, and no point has it ever accelerated at the pace that it is. I mean, it's so exponentially larger than what we saw going in the great financial crisis. Like it's just mind blowing. Every time I look at the graph, I'm like, I don't even know how everybody's still hanging on. It is just freaking mind blowing when I look at that. All right, now we're already starting to see inventory rise. Yeah, right. And for most of you, get this, you know this, like it's getting harder and harder to sell listings. Now, some of you are in some markets. You got about, I don't know, 5-10% of the country, some areas in the Midwest where it's still a seller's market. But for the vast majority, it's either a neutral market or has moved well into a buyer's market. So it's softening. And a softening is the beginning phase of decline, right? It wouldn't soften if it wasn't starting to decline, right? So, lesser offers, price reductions, we're starting to see it all. So if we look at new builds, so this is residential new builds throughout the United States, we're now at 9.8 months worth of inventory. Now, during the 91 recession, we were at 9.4 months. Now, during the GFC, we're at 12.2 months. But if you look at the last 1, 2, 3, 4 recessions, we're the second highest that we've seen when it comes to, if you remove kind of the freak out of the peak of the pandemic, where just everything kind of got shut down, then we got kind of skyrocketed temporarily and then came back down. But 9.8 months worth of inventory on new builds. So we're continue growing, continue to expand. Just so you know, at the peak of 2008, before leading to the GFC, we're at 12.2 months. So we're getting closer and closer, inching up to that number. New builds are struggling; they're hurting. That's why they're offering so many insane incentives. Then from there, we've all seen the Redfin charts, or at least most of us. So that now on a national level, there are 500,000 more sellers versus buyers out there. And it's just supply and demand. When you got more inventory than you do buyers, okay, prices got to start dropping, and then that new comp drops because who's selling right now? It's people that need to sell, so they're going to have to do what they're going to have to do to go out there and sell. And if that means continue dropping prices, I don't know about your market, but in my market, it's like, hey, you got to be the best looking thing, within the seller's means. Not everybody can afford to do a full rehab on their property before they sell, but within their means, it's like, hey, we got to get this home looking at its absolute best. Yeah, we got to market it properly, get great photos, get it marketed properly, get it, on the MLS correctly, get it syndicated everywhere, but man, we got to make sure it's priced right. When I say priced right, like I'm just speaking of my market, where a market that's declining pretty rapidly, it's like, hey, it isn't about we're going to pay attention to sold comps, we're going to pay attention to pending comps, but what we're really paying attention to is active comps, and we got to be the best price active comp on the market. Right. And then every new listing, okay, then that sells, that becomes a historic comp. Then, we're chasing the ball down the hill now. Right. That is where we're amongst and what we're doing now, when it comes to this. And there's a lot of other things I'm not going to go into, one last thing I'll talk about here, because I think it's important to talk about. Now, I don't know for a fact on this stuff. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but people always talk about interest rates. Now, I do not believe that interest rates are necessarily going to come down. I think we're going to probably stay kind of where we're at for some time to come. Now, and it's important to understand why things took place in the first place, right? So when we had, for the first time ever, these 2-3% interest rates, why did that take place? Well, we had this 100-year virus, 100-year pandemic coming in. The reason, at least, that we are told is, to save the economy, save the market, the Federal Reserve felt the need to come in and buy $90 billion a month of mortgage-backed securities, for almost 2 years straight, which then brought down mortgage rates, the lowest that we've ever seen. I hear so many people say things like, "Oh, once Jerome Powell gets out and they put a new Fed chair in place and they have the pressure to lower rates again, that's going to lower mortgage rates." I'm like, how? Not saying that there's not some correlations there, but just the overnight rate really has nothing directly to do with mortgage rates. That will impact credit card rates and business loans and the things, but mortgage rates are set by mortgage-backed security purchase demand, right? So then, okay, are people going to continue buying this debt instrument? And I don't know. I mean, do smart money that are buying these types of instruments, they're paying attention. They understand the pressure that the consumer is under. They're looking at this. They're seeing foreclosure rates. They're seeing bankruptcy rates. They're seeing credit card default rates. They're now seeing the job market really get hit hard and starting to, I know all the job numbers that we get purported are skewed, but when you look at good jobs, yeah, right. Layoffs are increasing and we're continuing to lose more and more good jobs. The jobs that are left are, kind of lower end service jobs. And a lot of people are having to go get 2 or 3 jobs, just to make up for the one good job that they had. Like they're seeing all the writing on the wall. So why would I go out there and buy a mortgage-backed security when I know that there's a good probability that this thing's going to get foreclosed upon and I'm going to lose that money versus just parking that into, a treasury bond, 2-year, 5-year, 1 year, 10-year treasury bond, right? Versus mortgage-backed security. So I don't know if this is going to, unless something extreme happens and the Federal Reserve comes back in and starts buying all these mortgage-backed securities again, which again, that was the first time in human history that that's happened, at least in recorded history, not saying human history, but in our time, that we have record of that that's taken place. So I am not convinced that that's going to take place. But even if it does take place, again, you remove real estate from it, just with life, the unaffordability of life, it's like, dude, even if they figured out a way to get mortgage payments down for the same house, $500 a month, is that enough? I'm not convinced that it is. I think that again, I think that they've tried kicking the can down the road so long, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I don't believe anything was fixed after the great financial crisis. I think they just figured out ways to, put chewing gum in the cracks in the dam, right, to give it the illusion that it was fixed. And now we're coming up to have to deal with the true real problems that were maybe never faced during that time. Okay, so those are kind of the primary reasons as to why I think that this is just out of control, unfixable, and a crash is inevitable, when it comes to this. And when I say a crash, when you look at historically, you look at your, household income in your marketplace, well, the median price of real estate is typically around between 3 and 4. So we'll call it 3.5 of that. Well, most markets are now 6, 7, 10, above that. So you outprice your locals. And when you got to have real estate where it's affordable for people that are raising their families, working in those areas, working in those markets. So in a lot of markets like mine, I'm like, hey, dude, like real estate needs to come down probably 40-50% just to get us back down to where it should have been in the first place. Right? What we saw the last few years is just unsustainable. Okay. So then from there, what do we need to do to go out there and make sure that we are in the best possible position to not just survive, but to thrive this? Okay, number one, set realistic expectations. Look, in business, just like life, there's times of peace, there's times of war. 2012 through 2022, longest peacetime in history for us in the United States. So longest was the longest bull market in recorded history, longest economic expansion in recorded history, longest real estate expansion in recorded history. That was a time of peace. Now we are amongst a time of war, right? When you're in a time of peace, yeah, you can kind of relax, you can kind of chill, you can kind of wing it, you can kind of show up, kind of be consistent, kind of work hard, and go out there and make a lot of money and do really well for yourself, right? During times of war, okay, things flip. Like it's time for battle. It is time for war. So just understand that it's not easy street anymore. Like you got to go out there and you got to slay, man. You got to go out there. You got to work your ass off. You got to work smart. You got to work hard. You got to be intentional. This is not a time to go out there and beg for, feel sorry for yourself that you don't have a day off. Right? Like, okay, like if you want that, go work in the corporate world, right? The corporate world is much more vulnerable, especially now that we're going to start seeing mass layoffs and with AI and all of this stuff. Like, I personally believe that there's nothing more vulnerable than being, in the corporate world, from a place of, just overall risk. Like, at least over here, yeah, we got to work hard. We got to grind our ass off. But I don't know anybody in the corporate world that's making great money that doesn't have to grind their ass off too. But at least our fate's in our own hands. I would rather work 60 hours grinding for myself to build something that I own for me and my family than working, 40 or 50 hours for somebody where I'm just a number that they don't care about me and they'll cut me in a heartbeat, when they need to, make cuts inside that organization. So it's just that expectation that, hey, right now is one of those seasons where, yeah, you're probably going to have to work harder. You're probably going to have to be more consistent. You're probably going to have to work more, intelligent, more strategic. It's just wartime. Right? Just it's time for battle. And he or she that's willing to go out there and fight this battle, that shows up for battle, that's willing to fight this battle, is the one that's going to be victorious. Okay, number two, got to make sure you're treating your business as a business. So many people are still winging it. They got accustomed to winging it. And again, 10 years is a long time to develop some bad, deep habits. So I say treat your business as a business. What do I mean by that? Okay, you got extreme clarity on what you want, why you want it, why it's important to you. So what you want is the goal, the target. Why you want it, why it's important to you is the reason that you must make that thing a reality. Then step number two is then we devise the best strategy plan to get you from where you're at to where it is that you want to go in a strategy plan with precision, where you know every single day what you must do to win inside your real estate business. Here's my schedule. Here's the hours I need to work. Here's exactly how many leads I must generate. Here's exactly how many reach outs, conversations, appointment set, appointment conductions. Like we know with precision what you must do every day, every week, every month to go out there and win, right? Number three, you've adopted the right skill sets, or you are working on adopting the right skill sets to optimize success with your strategy plan. Number three, okay, you're dialing in the right processes. And number four, you're dialing in the right systems for those processes to live within. I've got lots of podcasts on systems, processes, treat your business as a business that you can go out there and re-reference. Okay, number three, you're playing strategic offense. right? So strategic is, okay, who has the highest probability of needing my services in this market? There's no such thing as a good market, no such thing as a bad market. The real estate market's always good for somebody. So it's our job as real estate professionals to identify, okay, whom the market is good for, who's buying, who's selling, why they're buying, why they're selling, where they're coming from, where they're going, and pivot and shift and adapt. It's like, it's our job to know the product. Our product is, at least for me, I'm residential real estate. So residential real estate in these, areas within the Phoenix metropolitan area, my job is to know and move the product. Now, again, who's buying, who's selling, why they're buying it, why they're selling it, all those things might change over time. It has multiple times throughout my career. So I need to then pivot, okay, and be very strategic of whom I'm targeting, because that will change over time. The thing that doesn't change is the product itself, the homes themselves, right? That's my job, is to move the product and understand the product, know who's buying it, know who's selling it, and then offense. What I mean by offense is, I'm not waiting for anything to come to me right now. Right now, I'm not saying to neglect your past client sphere of influence referral business. No, keep that a great leg of your business, but it's probably going to be down, cut in half right now versus what we've historically seen, what you're historically used to. It's going to be down when you got 40 or 50% lesser people that are willing or able to participate in this current housing market. Okay, that makes sense why that would be down. Okay, so then from there, I'm going to have things that where my fate is in my own hands, where I can, hey, if I do these activities each and every single day, like I'm playing offense, I'm hunting, I'm not waiting for things to come to me, I'm going after it. That's what I mean by strategic offense. So we're being very intentional with who we're targeting, and then we're playing ways of offense. We're targeting ways that are within our control. We're not waiting for crap to just fall in our lap. And then number 4, works. Yeah, you got to work hard, but also working smart. This is where making sure you got your right skill sets in place. Because if we can maximize your conversions, if we can double your convert, like the quickest way to double or triple your business isn't to double or triple the amount of leads, double or triple the amount of money you're spending, double or triple the amount of hours. The quickest way to double or triple your business is to get 2 or 3 times as good at what you're already doing. That's a skill set game. When we look at this, like, dude, it's a strategy, skill set, process, system game overall, right? So we want to make sure that we're working smart. So dialing in the right skill set, leveraging the right technology, leveraging AI. Like, dude, like if you're not in leveraging AI very heavily inside your business, there is a problem. We just came out with our AI Academy for all of our agent partners, where it's like anything A to Z inside the real estate business. It's like, hey, here's the prompt, plug this in, do this, do this. We've made it where, like, if you've never used AI, make it where anybody can plug into this stuff. Like, you want the sickest listing presentation, buyer presentation, pre-marketing presentation. You want to go out there and do, the migration data research. So, if you how to become a relocation specialist, what areas to target, what areas to create YouTube content, short form content, the best lead magnets to go out there and create. AI can help assist us with all of this stuff. I don't need to go hire marketing managers anymore. I don't get to go hire all these consultants and pay all this money or spend hours and hours and hours figuring this stuff out myself, right? Between free AI platforms, if I know the right prompts, right? And this is just what we've done with ourselves and our agents, is we just give them all the right prompts. So then they can just plug this stuff in, and then boom, it just gives them the information that they need. So, like, making sure that, yeah, you're working hard, but you're working smart. And I do not believe that AI is going to replace the real estate agent, at least not in my lifetime. I could be naive on that, but I don't believe it's going to happen. There's too many moving parts. It's too much of an emotional transaction. We've got to wear like 30 hats per every transaction, every, legalities, laws. There's so many things where it makes it difficult to fully automate. Which a lot of industries have tried to do that. They try to eliminate the real estate agent and haven't been successful so far. So I do not believe that AI will replace the real estate agent, but I truly am convinced, I'm very certain on this, that those of us that are leveraging AI and technology in the right ways will 100% replace those in the industry that don't. So oh, Josh, I'm not good with that. So that is no longer an excuse, right? It's okay. How do I get good at it? I know it's essential. How do I get good at it? So number 1, set realistic expectations. This is a time of war, not a time of peace. Like, we all just got to work harder and not feel sorry for ourselves. It's just that time, right? Number 2, treat your business as a business. Number 3, plan strategic offense. And number 4, work smart and hard. And you work smart by dialing in your skill set, leveraging technology, leveraging AI, making sure that your systems are dialed in. Just allows you to do a hell of a lot more with less. So these are the 4 core things that you need to do to go out there and just, again, survive, not just survive, but thrive during these times. And again, if you want to learn more about partnering with me at EXP, where you get 100% full free access to all my coaching, all my support, all my materials, well, my business partner, Mike Schroard, who again, he is the best in the industry, hands down, at AI, at social media, at YouTube, growing our business organically through those means. If you want to learn how you get full free access to all of that, no additional cost to you, where we can kind of be the behind the scenes support system to support you, support your agents in making sure you are crushing your real estate goals. And look, for the vast majority that I talk to, it's like, okay, they get more better systems, they get better training, they get better support, they get better equity options because we're a publicly traded company where we get stock options for doing what we're already doing. There's more income earning opportunities, far better coaching, far better support. And in most cases, they usually end up netting a hell of a lot more money, not just because they're making more money in this environment, but just because, with our splits being so damn lucrative, they end up saving a lot of money as well, especially if you're a top producer, inside of our organization at EXP. So if you want to learn more about partnering together, I highly encourage you to schedule a 100% free, 100% zero pressure, 100% confidential Zoom call with me personally. And on this call, when I say zero pressure, look, I'm not going to try to recruit you. I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to pressure you. It's not my style. I don't want to partner with anybody and roll with anybody that doesn't want to roll with me, right? So it's just, hey, here's what we got. Here's how we work. Here's how we operate. Here's how we can support you. Let me answer any questions that you have. And if you feel that this is a better overall environment to help you accomplish your goals, great. And if not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. You have my word on that. So it's kind of one of nothing to lose, everything to gain, call. So if that's something that you'd like to take advantage of, below in the show notes or in the description, depending on where you're watching this, whether it's YouTube or you listen to this on iTunes or whatever, you'll see a top link in there where you can go ahead and schedule. It's just a link where you can pick any date, anytime. It's going to be you and me on the call, not outsourced to somebody else. It's you and me, on that call, breaking down this potential opportunity together. All right, guys, truly appreciate it. Keep crushing it. Keep kicking ass. I will see you next time. Peace.